Hello, Emery's Crime here, your fellow crime, thriller and mystery book lover. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Words cannot describe how lucky I am that I managed to get my grubby little paws on an advanced copy of Alice Feeney's upcoming release, My Husband's Wife. One of my earlier YouTube videos was actually an Alice Feeney book ranking. However, I think I've come a long way since filming that video. I feel I'm a lot more confident in front of the camera. Before I was terrified to talk to you all. And also, obviously, I've now read My Husband's Wife, so I think it's time for an updated ultimate ranking video. She has written 8 books in total, and obviously I'm going to start with my least favourite, book number 8, and end on a high with my favourite book. And the big question is, how does her upcoming release compare to her previous books? Obviously, it goes without saying that this is just my opinion, and your ranking of Alice Feeney's books are very likely to differ from mine. My least favourite book of Alice Feeney's is Good Bad Girl, which I think a lot of you may agree with me on this one, that it's also not your favourite. 20 years ago, a baby was stolen from a pushchair. In the present day, a woman is murdered in a care home, and it appears that the two cases are linked, but how? When I read this, I felt that this just lacked Alice Feeney's usual sparkle. The story felt very family-focused, domestic fiction, and didn't really give off major thriller vibes like her usual books do. Don't get me wrong, there were twists and turns in the story, but they just didn't blow me away like she would usually do. I very rarely read author acknowledgements, but after finishing Good Bad Girl, I actually did, because I was quite surprised by the writing of Good Bad Girl, because it just didn't feel up to scratch. And in her acknowledgements, she had wrote about how she was going through a tough time, and I personally think that you can really see that in her writing. Overall, this wasn't really my cup of tea. It was fine, but yeah, it's not one of hers I'd recommend, and I gave it 3 stars out of 5. Book 7 is Sometimes I Lie, which is her first ever novel. There are 3 things you need to know about main character Amber Reynolds. First up, she's in a coma. Second of all, her husband doesn't love her anymore. And third of all, sometimes she lies. Don't get me wrong, I thought this was alright, and I thought it was written really well considering it was her first ever novel. I felt that there was some great twists, but what I felt really let this down was the ending. I don't want to go into too much detail and risk spoiling it, but the ending wasn't my favourite. And even though I thought this was written well, I think she's come a long way since this first book in her writing style. I think she has improved so much more. Overall, I gave this 3.5 stars out of 5. Book number 6 is I Know Who You Are. Main character Amy is an actress, and she comes home to find that her husband is missing. The police believe that she is hiding something, and she is, but not what you would think. Compared to her other books, I personally did find that this was a bit slower on the pacing. However, even though I found it lacking in pacing a bit, the messed up darkness of the story well and truly made up for that. I don't say this lightly, but this story has one of the most messed up, disgusting plot twists which I have ever come across. I personally thought the twist was great, even though it was horrendous. But I know full well that lots of people despise the twist, and it could be quite triggering. If you Google the trigger warning, it will spoil the ending for you, but if you are likely to be triggered by something in particular, then I would recommend that you check out the trigger warnings for this. Overall, I really enjoyed it, and I gave it 4 stars out of 5. Book number 5 is His and Hers, and I am so excited because this is coming to Netflix in January, so I think I'm going to have to do a cheeky reread before I watch it. A woman is murdered in Blackdown Village. Newsreader Anna has had a recent demotion, and she is assigned to cover the case. However, she is absolutely horrified when she arrives to find that her ex-husband Jack, who is a DCI, is involved and working on the case. However, as more of the case starts to be uncovered, it seems more and more likely that Jack is somehow involved. About a third of the way through, however, I did guess the killer. It's a toxic trait of mine that I'm quite good at guessing plot twists. I really try hard not to overthink it, but I can't help myself. Despite guessing who the killer was, I still thought it was absolutely fantastic. It was so hard to put down. You know, when you're just reading a book and you're like, one more chapter, okay, just one more chapter, and so on and so forth. Well, that is the vibes and feelings I got when I read this book. Because I guessed the killer, I gave this book 4.5 stars out of 5. Book number 4 is a controversial one. I find that people either love this book or hate it, and I definitely fell into the love category, and that book is Daisy Darker. Daisy was born with a broken heart, and she has always been an outcast from her family. The Darker family reunite on Halloween for Nana's 80th birthday. One by one they start dying, but who is killing them? Again, as with most of her books, I thought that this was really well written. It was really addictive, really hard to put down, very Moorish. Why this book has people divided is because of the twist, and I personally loved it. I thought it was excellent. I won't spoil it, but I do think that this twist has been done in a popular movie, but I'm not saying anything, my lips are sealed. After the big reveal of the twist, I actually found myself going back to the beginning and rereading the whole thing to try and pick up on things which I might have missed. The writing was flawless and it was cleverly well done. Michaela from What Michaela Reads and I actually met her, and she was talking about she had a particular naughty book which she kept having to come back to, and Daisy Darker was this naughty book which she really struggled with. But I'm so glad that she managed to make whatever wasn't working work, because I just thought it was fantastic, and I gave it 4.5 stars out of 5. We are 5 books down and 3 to go. If you have made it this far, then thank you ever so much. If you're not already doing so but would like to hit that subscribe button, then it would honestly mean the world to me. As well as being on BookTube, you can also find me on Instagram and on TikTok, both the same handle at Emma Reads Crime, if you're not already following me on there and would like to do so. Now on for book 3, which is Rock, Paper, Scissors. Adam and Amelia are a married couple. They've been married for 10 years, but they're going through a bit of a rough patch. However, they win a weekend trip away to Scotland, which is just what their marriage needs. Every year on their marriage, they exchange theme gifts depending on what year they've been married, you know, like paper, or for 10 years it's obviously tin. And each year Amelia writes Adam a letter which he'll never let him read until now. They both know that this weekend will make or break their marriage. However, they didn't actually randomly win this trip. One of them is lying, and somebody doesn't want their marriage to end in a happily ever after. This was my first ever Alice Feeney book, and wow, what an Alice Feeney book to start with. It was so atmospheric. I absolutely adored the settings and the vibes. And the twist literally had my jaw on the floor. I really, hands down, think that this is one of the best plot twists I have ever come across in a book. It wasn't quite a 5-star read for me, but very close, and I gave it 4.5 stars out of 5. I've got 2 books left to go. One is obviously My Husband's Wife, her upcoming release, and the other is Beautiful Ugly, her previous release. I'm not gonna lie, this was very, very close and very tricky, but book number 2 is gonna go to Beautiful Ugly. Author Grady Green is having the worst best day of his life. He calls his wife Abby to share some really exciting news while she's in the car driving home. Then he hears her slam on the brakes and get out the car. He then goes to try and find her. He finds her car, but there is no sign of Abby, and she has completely disappeared. Following this, his writing career just stops. So he goes to a remote Scottish cabin to try and get some inspiration to start writing again, where he spots a woman who looks identical to his missing wife. I found that the story was complex and had a lot of meat on its bones, yet it was so easy to follow. I was never confused. I found the characters really interesting to read about, and as with Rock, Paper, Scissors, I love the setting was very atmospheric and creepy. The twists and turns in this book were phenomenal, and it was just so cleverly well done. It was a masterpiece without having those sorts of pretentious vibes. It was my book of last year, and it was a very easy 5-star read. So that obviously means that my favourite book of Alice Feeney's is her upcoming release, My Husband's Wife, which was obviously a 5-star book for me. Eden Fox is out on a run and she arrives home and her key does not work in the door. A woman then answers the door. She's wearing Eden's clothes and she looks strangely familiar and similar to Eden. This stranger claims that she is in fact Eden Fox, and her husband agrees with her. What on earth is going on? I absolutely devoured this book. I binged it in 2 sittings within 24 hours. If I hadn't have had my job, I would have binged it in 1 sitting. It had short and punchy chapters which left you wanting more and more at the end of each chapter. The writing kept me on my toes. It was so easy to read, and the twists just kept on twisting. They got me. They shocked me. They were brilliant. Have you ever picked up a book solely on the fact that one of your favourite authors has blurbed it, i.e. said something complimentary about the book? Well, I did a whole reading vlog on this where my husband's wife features, so if you're interested, I'll link the video here. And if you've enjoyed this style video and would like to see other author ranking videos, I will link my Janice Hallett ranking video here. Thank you so much for taking your time to watch this video. I honestly appreciate it so much. As always, let me know what you think in the comments. Thank you, bye!